Make sure you're sitting down for this. The Dogs are favored by 24.5 points over the South Carolina Gamecocks. That is a huge line. And I did some reporting on this as I do most of these lines. This line actually started at Georgia giving away 20.5 points. So a three score line was how this thing started. It is now up to 24 and a half, which is a significantly big number. Georgia is 40. Okay, so since 2010, Georgia's been favored by at least 20 points 46 times. They are 45 and 1 in those games. That gives them about, if you're going on that, plus some of the other things that we see, like a week ago with Appalachian State winning. Those are very rare upsets. They happen about 2% of the time. What was the only loss in the last 12 plus years when Georgia was favored by 20 points or more? It was to South Carolina at home in 2019. And I I think Georgia is going to really put the hammer to South Carolina. But once you start moving the number to 24, I mean that's three and a half scores. And I don't know about you, but you don't ever know what can happen in a game where you can get a backdoor cover or the like this game's had a lot of rain through the years. And you can have all sorts of changes there. I mean, we've seen in 2002 the game was delayed during the game because of a thunderstorm or thunderstorms. 2014, the same thing happened. 2016, this game was delayed a day because of a hurricane. 2020, these are all games in Columbia, by the way. It never seems to happen in Athens for some reason. But 2020, the odd weather thing there was by the end of the game, there was a huge amount of fog that was taking over Williams-Brice Stadium. But these two teams, I'm going to talk about this later in the week as well. These two teams are, or programs, I should say, I think they've never been further apart. And I know this game better than anybody around, with the exception of maybe Claude Felton, who's been at Georgia for since the 70s. And it is shocking going into this game where Georgia is favored by this many points. Um, you know, okay, so South Carolina. First of all, Kirby's only loss to South Carolina was the 2019 game. Carolina enters the game unranked, coming off a 44-30 loss to Arkansas. They managed only 40 yards rushing against the Hogs. I would imagine they're going to have more than 40 yards against Georgia just because of the way that Georgia plays at the end of the games. But the Dogs are allowing only 80 yards a game on the ground. Um, that's not good. I will mention too, Georgia's only allowed 2 touchdowns in the last 4 games they've played. Make sure you're picking up DAWGSTRUCTION. Two of the games that I'm talking about, actually the only 2 games that have had touchdowns scored against them, are in the book, which is Michigan and Alabama. Um, we're seeing Georgia at a different level right now. They did not play well Saturday offensively. It was not efficient, excuse me. They did not play efficiently. You don't want to kick you don't want to kick 4 field goals inside the red zone. It's not good enough. If you're not taking advantage of getting dog structure today, don't miss out. Um, I was pretty confident when the line came out that Georgia would cover. I become growingly less confident once you start stacking points on there. So um, I don't quite know what to make of this line, but it's not surprising that it's such a hefty line. Georgia and South Carolina lately, since 2017, excuse me, 2016, the Dogs have been a significant favorite over South Carolina lately. And, the first time that was the case was 2018. But in 19, you had the upset. In 2020, that was a real beating that Georgia put on South Carolina. Last year, I'm trying to remember. Last year, South Carolina played okay. And it just got away from them. It was one of those games for I think, listen, I think for Shane Beamer right now, And this South Carolina program, um, they are at a point in the growth and the development of their program where they've not hit a wall. That would be incorrect to say, but they've kind of gotten a lot of wins that you wouldn't have necessarily expected in terms of brand names. They've beaten North Carolina. That's a big deal in the Carolinas. If South Carolina beats North Carolina in football, that's an important thing for South Carolina Gamecocks. The win over Auburn last season, the win over the Gators last season. There were I would also argue, and it's not really a rivalry anymore, but the win for them over East Carolina was an important game because it looked like they were going to lose that game for a while at the beginning of the season. And then Carolina's been not. There are times when South Carolina's not been competitive in games, and certainly a season ago against Clemson, their loss to Georgia was a significant loss. They had Kentucky on the ropes and didn't win that game, but they lost by 30 to Texas A&M, about 30 to Georgia, by 30 to Clemson, and those are perceived as the better teams that they play on their schedule. This season for Carolina, you're going into a stretch of the season here where you're going to need to pick up wins. They're there to be had. I mean, you've got South Carolina State. Obviously, that should be a win. I don't think at all it's out of the question that they can beat Kentucky. Uh, I don't think they will, but I don't think that's out of the question at all. And I think the next week with Texas A&M and then Missouri, I mean, you got to start picking up steam. They can beat Kentucky. They won't. They can beat Texas A&M. They probably won't. They better beat Missouri. They better beat Vanderbilt. And then you've got the close of the season where they need to win at least one of those games, Florida, Tennessee, or Clemson. And none of those teams right now, God, I can't believe I'm going to say this, but Tennessee looks like they might be, you know, the toughest of that group because Clemson just doesn't look good on offense right now. Um, so we'll see. I mean, there's a lot. This is the one game where if you lose it in your South Carolina, you like still feel okay, but you got to get rid of that mindset. That's not how it works. You have to win football games. Losing close, Texas, that doesn't count. You don't get anything for that. You get invitations to the Belt Bowl for that, and um, that's not gonna work when you're trying to go further than where Carolina has been. And I think that this game here for Georgia is going to be about getting back to being efficient on offense, deadly, surgeon like. I need to see the run game inside the red zone convert to touchdowns. There have been several times this season already where the backs have not quite scored when you thought they would. And that's not necessarily going up the middle, but going wide. Um, I think that if there is cause for concern right now, it's with that. There's not a lot of cause for concern, but there's a big difference in my view between winning a game 49 to nothing and winning it 33 to nothing. And that's those 16 points. But you try not to overreact to any one game. And Georgia's efficiencies, their efficient manner against Oregon could trick you into think that they're going to be that way the entire season. Their inefficiency against Samford makes you think that they could have trouble the entire season. It's hard to believe that Kendall Milton is going to get stuffed near the goal line a lot. But there's a couple of times when he didn't score when he was within the 10-yard line. That ain't all on him, by the way. I mean, there's any number of factors that go into the reason the play works or does not. But I do think singling out any one player is an incorrect way to do it. I just think that Kendall, he had a really good game actually against Samford. 85 yards on 10 carries. but I've not seen, and this is not directed to Kendall, I've not seen an explosive run play that, Kenny McIntosh is a home run hitter and he's not hit a home run yet. Kendall is a bruiser that to me, that you close games with and you're effective with near the end zone. And those two things are going to be things that people pick up on over time that they've not happened perhaps with the frequency that you'd like to see. But we're not, we're 2 games into this, and we don't, know how things will develop. Georgia looks the part of a national champion, but in any game there are, or any season, there are um, things that have to be dealt with and worked on. I think, with South Carolina, that's a physical program and team. And if you can bang away and get, a couple of touchdowns with the run game inside the 10-yard line, you're not gonna hear me chirp about this as much because they've got players. They've got big guys. They just don't have everything they need. There's no excuse for Georgia losing this game. There's no explanation. In terms of them covering a 24-point line, we're gonna have to talk about that one.